to me is it seems like wherever your perspective is, which side you come at it, is how you determine whether this person that's a president is good or bad. And I think that that's kind of the way it works sometimes in politics. So I don't love that, I'll be honest with you, but it's not just in politics. I'll show you a picture of a guy here, and we'll see what you think of him. We got a couple people like, yeah, and a couple of people, All right, so half of the people in the room, they look at that picture and they say, that guy is a hardworking guy. He's at the top of his craft. He's a Christian. He prays before every game. He's good to his teammates, and he's obviously excellent in what he does. And so many of you might say, it was a good person. And then the other half of you, maybe more than half based on that response, the other half of you might be like, well, he's a cheater, he's a crybaby. He's a crybaby. He's uses vulgarity, and he's just such a wimp, and all these kind of different things. And so it seems like how you judge Patrick Mahomes is whether you like Kansas City Chiefs or not, or whether you want to see them win or not. And that's kind of a lot of the perspective that we take on it. But it's not just presidents, and it's not just quarterbacks. It's actually everybody we come into contact with. In fact, I would ask you this. Anybody in here know somebody that you would call good, like a good person? Okay? Anybody? Nobody? Nobody knows anybody good? We're in trouble, y'all. Everybody knows good people, right? I mean, there's people you can't say anything bad about, like Mother Teresa or Glenn Argabright. They're good people. But I will tell you this. People in their circle, that people that have been around them before and from different perspectives, every single person, no matter how good you think they are, somebody says they're not a good person. Someone's had an experience that said that's not a good person. And so who gets to judge? Now, here's the deal. I think I have a good standard. You guys tell me what you think. Difference between good and bad people. If you squeeze the toothpaste from the middle and it comes out to get your little spot without doing the godly thing, which is to roll it up from the bottom, you're a bad person. That's it. So bottom rollers, good people. Middle squeezers, bad people. That's as easy as I can make it, all right? Well, the truth is, you guys ever heard this? Anybody ever say, only God can judge me? You ever heard that? You ever heard that in our current culture? A lot of people say that, only God can judge me. Well, the truth is, that's absolutely right. In fact, the only person who can rightly judge a human is God. He's the only one that knows everything from the inside out, everything about us, everything we've ever done, everything we've ever thought and said. And so God is a good and fair judge of us. And we might not be able to see because we have our perspectives, but God can see, all right? And that's the perspective that I want to take into this story. It's a very good story, even though it doesn't seem good on its face. Genesis chapter 18, guess what? Jesus shows up again, all right? Jesus enters into the scene. We've been talking for several weeks about how Jesus physically is in the Old Testament, and I believe it happens here again in Genesis chapter 18. The Bible tells us that 3 men are walking through Abraham's camp. Okay, Abraham and his wife and lots of people around them, over 300 people. They're all in this camp, and 3 men are walking right through the camp, and they're heading towards the town of Sodom. Okay, and Sodom is a bad place. We've already remembered that from last week. It's a bad place full of evil. And actually, as they're coming, the Bible tells us in Genesis chapter 19 that 2 of them are men. They are men appearing, they're angels. They're angels appearing as men, okay? So Genesis chapter 19, you'll see that. 2 of them are angels appearing as men. Now, this happens throughout the Old Testament all the time, and in the New Testament. People show up, and they're angels, okay? But they look as men, and I would remind us what Romans 8 says, that in the likeness, the same likeness, okay? And there was one more, and the Bible calls him God the Lord. All right, but there were 3 men, all right? And so if you remember from the first week, John 1:18, no one has seen the Lord because God is spirit except when they've seen the Son. And so when God manifests himself in human flesh, that is always the second person of the Trinity. That is Jesus. And so Jesus and 2 angels are walking through Abraham's camp. Now, why are they there? Well, Jesus tells Abraham, several things happen. And in fact, I would encourage you. Why don't you guys, y'all are looking at Patrick Mahomes too much. I mean, I keep looking. Everybody's like, yeah, anyway. I'm distracted too. What I would encourage you to do, read the whole chapter, Genesis 18. There's a lot of stuff that happens there. We can't talk about it all. But something particular about halfway through the chapter, Jesus is walking through and he begins to tell Abraham why he has come. He says that he has heard the cry from Sodom and Gomorrah and the local towns there. They're so evil that Jesus has decided, I'm going to come. And what he says is, if I see what I think I'm going to see, I'm going to wipe the place out because it's so bad, okay? But here's the thing. Jesus can do anything he wants. He could have just shown up at Sodom. Why does he walk through Abraham's camp? Well, there's a reason for that. And that's where we start to begin to unravel the purpose of Jesus in this story. What happens is Jesus says, I'm going to destroy this place. The cry has been too great. And the two angels, the two men, continue walking towards Sodom. But Jesus stays. And Abraham, like us, approaches Jesus. Who would love to have this opportunity? Just to have a conversation with God. But when he does, Abraham very timidly and very humbly asks a question. And this question, guys, is a huge question. It's a very important question. Don't read ahead. I see y'all looking down and flipping. It's a very important question. In fact, it's a question that every single one of us has asked at one point or another. And you as a Christian, if you're a new Christian or if you've just been walking with the Lord, you're going to hear people ask you this question, okay? It might sound a little different, but I want to show you what it is. This is Genesis chapter 18, verse 23, and this is the question that Abraham asks. Abraham approached him, that's Jesus, and said, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? You say, well, I've never asked that question. Well, not exactly like that, but let me ask you if you've ever heard it said this way. Why do or bad things happen to good people? Have you ever heard that? It's probably the one objection that I've gotten the most from people that are atheists or against God or anti-God. They would say, why is it that bad things happen to good people? And maybe they would ask it this way. Why is it that if God is there, which like you say he is, if God is there and he's loving and he's good, why would it be that innocent people have to suffer?